Esanullah was only 17 years old, an age when most young people dream about their hopes and a bright future. But Esanullah awoke to the pain of his homeland instead. The oppression, brutality, and violence of the invading forces shook him awake, and he decided to dedicate himself to what he believed was the sacred duty of defending his country and its people. He left his home and took up arms against the invading forces in the Muzahi district of Kabul province. Later, he moved to Maidan Wardak, where he joined the ranks of those engaged in the struggle. Despite the hardships of life on the front lines, hunger, exhaustion, danger, and hardship, he never took a step back.
First, I started studying at a religious school. My father enrolled me in the madrasa when I was 17 years old. While I was studying there, I witnessed what I considered to be the injustices of the Republic. I developed the feeling that, just as there were other mujahideen during the period of jihad, I should also stand up and take part. At that time, I had a friend named Mustafa. I have since lost contact with him. Perhaps he is still alive, or perhaps he was martyred. His brother, Mahmoud, was also with us. After staying there for some time, I traveled to Wardak province. There, we carried out operations against checkpoints, including one at Dorahi in Saidabad district. We planted mines targeting American forces. We worked on those operations and they were successful. American troops who were traveling in a convoy were killed. We also carried out operations in the Sala area.
Sometime later, he traveled from one province to another, enduring a grueling 16-day journey on difficult roads until he reached Samangan, where he continued his mission. It was the 28th day of Ramadan when fierce fighting broke out. The sound of bullets echoed through the air, explosions shook the ground, smoke from gunpowder filled the battlefield, and the shadow of death spread in every direction. Yet he remained steadfast, determined to defend his homeland.
We traveled to Samangan province. The journey took us 16 days, but eventually we arrived. There was a man there called Mohammadi, who was later martyred. May God accept his martyrdom. We stayed at his base for a while, then established another base in Panj Karia. From there, whenever enemy or Republic forces were present, we would launch operations against them. Later, we carried out operations in Dar-e-Saf, specifically in Dar-e-Saf Bala.
The battle intensified. Reports of the invaders' defeat could be heard as the Mujahideen resisted a far stronger military force for hours. The fighting grew fiercer with every passing moment, and the enemy unleashed heavy weapons. Suddenly, a cry rang out. Esanullah collapsed to the ground. His fellow fighters rushed to him and found that he had been struck by PK machine gun bullets and was lying in a pool of his own blood.
Whenever we went on operations, I went with enthusiasm, determination, and faith. We believed they were committing oppression, and we believed we were seeking what we considered our rightful cause. Our belief was that Islamic law should govern the whole country. As we continued, we were successful in the work we had set out to do. Later, on the 28th day of Ramadan, I was wounded during an attack. It happened around 3 a.m., which I still remember clearly. Our position in Dar-e-Saf came under attack. At first, things were going well, but then I was wounded. After I was hit, I remember my body becoming cold and numb, and I collapsed.
Several hours later, the battle came to an end. The invading forces retreated after suffering heavy losses. His comrades carried Esanullah back to their position, but there was no hospital, no medicine, and no facilities available to treat his injuries.
From there, they took me back to our base. At the base, they decided that I needed medical treatment. They could not treat me there because they had very limited resources. Even obtaining medicine was extremely difficult. We were living in great poverty and hardship. I spent 2 months there. We drank rainwater because there was no clean drinking water. The available water was salty or bitter, so we collected rainwater instead. Whenever it rained, we were happy because it meant we had water. We even made tea with rainwater and drank it.
In those difficult circumstances, Esanullah managed to send word to his uncle. When his father learned what had happened, he undertook a long and difficult journey to bring him to Kabul for medical treatment.
My younger maternal uncle was contacted. We called him and told him I had been injured, although we did not explain the full extent of my injuries. I simply told him that I had been at a cemetery, suddenly collapsed, and my legs had stopped working. I asked him for help and told him not to tell my father immediately. He came and took me from there to the market in Samangan province. It was either the first or second day of Eid. I believe it was the second day. From there, they brought me to Kabul with great difficulty.
But fate had already taken its course. 2 months after he was wounded, the war came to an end, and the white flag of the Islamic Emirate was raised across Afghanistan. For Esanullah, however, the price of that victory was immense.
After 8 or 9 years away from home, I finally returned while still injured. My family saw me in that condition. My mother had expected that I would come home healthy and walk inside on my own, but instead they carried me inside. When my mother saw me, she was deeply distressed. I told her, "May God be pleased with us. The Islamic system that we wanted to establish in this country has now come into existence. Our hope has been fulfilled. Please be patient, and may God reward you." She also told me that the sacrifice had been made for God's pleasure and expressed pride in me. She prayed that God would grant me good health. Earlier, when I called her, I told her to save my share of the Eid cookies because I would come home a day or two after Eid. She replied that I would not be able to walk anymore, and she cried. She said the hardest thing for her was that I would never be able to walk again.
Today, his entire body below the chest is paralyzed. His legs no longer move, and the physical strength he once possessed is gone. Yet if you look into his eyes, you will find neither regret nor despair. He says with conviction, "My body may now lie motionless, but my conscience is at peace. I believe I did what I considered my duty in defending my homeland, and I live with pride in that." Although his wounds still require care, he says with pride, "If I were faced with the same moment again, I would choose the same path to defend my homeland, because sacrificing for Islam is the greatest honor and pride."
The 24th of Asad is a day of great pride. It is seen as the result of sacrifices that were made and the realization of a long-held hope. That the sacrifices were made so that the people could live in happiness.
Today, his younger brother and elderly father are his support. They have devoted themselves to caring for Esanullah, and they regard it as a source of honor, a pride that has replaced despair with dignity.
My father and brothers have taken care of me. May God reward them. They even place my meals on a pillow so I can eat. I can only sit for about half an hour at a time. I cannot sit any longer than that. Most of the time I remain lying down so that I do not develop pressure sores from my injuries. Occasionally I sit for about half an hour, but not longer.
His story reminds us that some sacrifices are not written on the pages of history, but on the wounds carried by the human body. Esanullah's life stands as a living testament to such sacrifice.